Hi, welcome to the Azire office here in Stockholm. So today we're going to show you how the process and the journey servers go through from arriving to us prepping it to making sure everything works as intended to packaging it and to send it away to our different locations. So right now we just got the delivery. We got some new servers for some of the new locations that we are bringing in to our infrastructure. Unfortunately, it's too big for the door, so we're gonna disassemble it first and then bring it all in for setup. There we go. So this is 27 servers, all equipped with the hardware necessary to ensure fast, reliable, and stable networking for everyone who uses Azire. And there goes the truck. Bye. Yeah. So what we usually do is we open up the package. We make sure that everything we have ordered is included. And then we test it out. So we connect it to our little station that we have. We connect everything. We make sure that the stuff that's supposed to work works. So this one is okay. Turn it off, disconnect everything, and the intrusion is also working on this one, so that's good. There you go, turn it on. Now we restart the process again. Then we go through the steps of plugging it in, making sure that everything works as intended. We go through some settings. We enable some PXE settings, which we use for deployment. We go through them, we make sure that we can connect to them, and then when it's all ready and done, we plug everything in. We put our stickers on them and labels, and then we ship them to the locations. So we go through each one after another. We have received 27 new servers for different locations. We have prepared them, or we're preparing them, depending on which ones. Yeah, we're shipping out some of them today. So right now, we're just making sure that we can configure the servers. So since we don't have any hard drives on it or dedicated storage, we're using PXE for the operating system, or rather for the files and everything, so we can set up the server and turn on the WireGuard configurations and so on. I'm gonna check if the intrusion stuff is working. So PXE is a way for you to boot operating systems through the network. Also making sure that the ports are configured correctly on in this case, the LAN interfaces. So right now I'm just making sure that everything works so we can still use it. So it won't be a problem on site, because if we send it out and then there's an issue where we have configured something wrong, we have to do it manually on the device, then it's kind of bad, especially for the environment if you're gonna have to send it back and forth.
Här är tigexporten. Jag försöker också tig in. Okay.
So, per old Azire tradition, we're gonna glue some ports shut. So Azire used to glue shut some of the ports on the device, just as a extra precaution, and also was kind of fun. It's essentially so no one else can come in, connect, for example, HDMI cable, VGA or USB. We stopped doing that since we have decent control over the software and so on, so we can shut those down automatically. But per our request and for old tradition's sake, we have started doing that. So this time we're using silicon instead. So we have prepared the server. This is going to Japan, Tokyo, and now we're gonna fill in some ports. What I'm using right now is transparent silicon, so it won't conduct electricity. So most importantly, it's probably the console port right here, this one. There we go. So as you may know, the console port is where you connect in from an external device. They also have some USB here. So the port to the right, the LAN ports, we're gonna use those. So we're not gonna touch those. But USB, for example, if you have peripherals, mouse or keyboard, something like that, there you go. Just gonna make sure it fills in so you can't just pull it out. Then we also have a WAN port, we might as well fill that in as well, even though we won't show anything, just a black screen, but hey, why not? So the other ports we use, so we're not gonna keep those. So that's how we usually do it. So depending on the, well, if it's through the whole process, it takes a while, but once we set everything up, maybe 30 minutes tops, usually, unless there's an issue. So once everything is installed and we can see it from our side, it goes up pretty quickly. The most time-consuming for the whole process is probably just the fact that we have to wait on them to be shipped to us, and at the same time also packaging them up, taking up the servers, controlling each of them, and making sure that it's all correct, and changing settings and so on. The shipping after that, when they're done, we send them to the different data centers and so on. That goes fairly quickly, but everything before that is pretty time consuming. So Azire servers are pretty unique in their own respect. First of all, we own all of our hardware. They're also diskless. We have the blind operator, so we don't record or store anything on them. We also don't have any control over them, so once they're deployed, they're pretty much up and running. It's all on actual hardware, so it's not, for example, VPS or so on, so it's no virtual computers or machines. And yeah, we have full control over everything, essentially. That on its own makes Azire pretty unique. This is the usual hardware we use for our locations. So I don't think it's, yeah. There we go. All right. So here's the internals. As you can see, there's no storage at the front. We don't even have the cables for the SATA connections either. So it's all RAM and CPU. We also have the NICs for the fiber optics as well. And as you can see here, we have a trigger. So when this is pressed and we reset it internally, it has a sensor. So the second you open the chassis, it triggers internally. It also works offline when it's not plugged into electricity. So it runs through the CMOS battery as well. So if someone plugged this out and then took out the chassis and plugged it in again, we would still detect that. When we order servers, we order stuff we already know, so the hardware we're familiar with. We also know that they will handle the capacity. So in this case, it's 10 gigabit servers. The way blind operator works is essentially we don't store anything, we don't log anything, and even if we wanted to, we can't access the servers themselves. So we can't go into them. Once they're out, they're out. If we can't touch them physically, then it's pretty impossible to do anything. And even if you were to touch them physically, or like plug in ports or anything like that, that would also not work since we don't store anything. So the second the data on the device is used, so packages coming back and forth and so on, if it's not needed anymore, if it's not being routed or anything like that, then it's gone. So that's how the blind operator works essentially. We don't have any control on the servers themselves. All we do is tell through some management ports that, hey, we had an update to some software, update that, and that's pretty much it. So out of these 27 servers we have received and gone through, some of them are going to new locations and some of them are going to locations we already have hardware in. So in this case, we're upgrading, for example, places like Chicago and San Francisco. So we already have servers there and we're adding, for example, 2 more or 4 more depending on the location. We also have some new locations, some new exciting locations. Next week we're expecting around 73 new servers to arrive as well. So we're in a phase right now where we're expanding the infrastructure. So we ensure that everything is set up securely on the different locations through deployment from the office. Servers themselves don't have anything on them, so the second everything is plugged in and so on, we have a secure connection to a management switch that then updates the software on the hardware itself, so on the servers. We don't physically visit every location. We do sometimes, depending on where it is and so on, but otherwise we usually ship them out and then the data centers themselves take them in and then set up everything for us. If it's a location we already have hardware in, then it's usually just plug and play, and then from here we push up the software to ensure that everything works. And if it's a new location, we also send out a router/switch that we communicate with to ensure that everything works smoothly on the servers, since we don't have any real control over any of the hardware or the software once we deploy. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you found this interesting. So the process of getting the deliveries, sending them out, how everything works, and so on. So stay tuned for more updates that are coming, well, in about a month or so. We're gonna have new locations and so on. So hopefully you enjoyed it.